it's your girl Regina coming at you guys with another video. If you hear any talking that's louder than me, I promise you, you're not crazy. It's just my very loud mom and brother. The only thing I can say is that I come from a very loud Punjabi family, where all we do is talk loud and eat. So, today, we are going to talk about my 11 favorite historically centered books. The reason why I want to give these recommendations for you guys to read is because, honestly, I read historically based novels, fantasy, sci-fi, and thrillers. You know, I'm new to the thrillers. I've been reading fantasy for some time, but that's a lot of books to get through. And with this, I was able to narrow it down. Before we begin, I just want to remind you guys that the loud talking is my mom and brother, and I hope they watch this video. And if you guys relate, please leave a like or a comment down below. Comment, like, subscribe. Okay, so, for your convenience, I am going to give a couple of side notes. One, I will not be talking about Night by Elie Wiesel or The Diary of Anne Frank, because they're quite amazing, very relevant, but overly talked about. Alright, I'm going to give you a selection of books that you may or may not have heard of. Except for, like, two of them, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. Anyways, let's get into it, shall we? One is The Opium War by Julia Lovell. This is about the opium addiction in China during the 1800s. One of the ways that the Britishers were able to colonize so well is by using drugs and prostitution and a whole bunch of other stuff, but mainly drugs. Opium comes from the poppy flower, and as you may or may not know, it is highly addictive. So, the drugs were given to the emperors, the citizenry, not only to trade and barter with, but also to consume. Because the British figured that if the Chinese would stay drugged up, then they would be docile enough to take advantage of. Next, we have Am Regina by Sally M. Keene. This is colonial America, before the Britishers arrive. Regina, no, wait. Oh, no, the English have arrived, but it's not a full-on colonization at this point. Regina has been taken away from her family after her brother and father have been killed by the Allegheny Native Americans, and the only reason that the mother survives is by not being in the house. So Regina is taken away, and she is raised by these people. She learns the native way of life. She learns about their food, the culture, the dances, everything. But at the back of her mind, she always wonders about her mom. It's a really good book. I read this in the 8th grade, so about 12 years ago. And something about this story has always stuck with me. Next, we have Born in Blood and Fire, A Concise History of Latin America by John Charles Chastain. This is about 340 odd pages, spanning about 500 years. So, 350 pages, 500, yeah. So it's not everything, but it's quite the major points of Latin American history. Talks about Mexico, Guatemala, Brazil, Argentina. Touches upon Chile, Honduras, all these places, and also trade. I generally like this book because the chapters were short, and I really, really liked this class in college. This professor was amazing. Next, we have... Sorry. Oh, America's First Daughter by Stephanie Dray and Laura Camoy. This is set, actually, in the very, very late 1700s to the early 1800s, and this is about Patsy Jefferson, who was the eldest daughter of Thomas Jefferson, and during the time of her father's presidency, the first daughter of America. After her mother's death, she and her siblings were moved to France for a better life, for a better education, for more opportunities. What's really interesting is that Patsy not only went to a Catholic convent, I'll tell you why in a minute, but that she was educated. And it's interesting because this was a time where education to girls wasn't always given such a high priority, but a very few of our statesmen decided that girls need to be educated. The reason why it's interesting that she was in a Catholic convent was because Thomas Jefferson was an atheist. He didn't believe in miracles. Fun fact, the Jeffersonian Bible is what presidents swear upon. And that Bible was heavily edited because, again, Thomas Jefferson did not believe in miracles and other things. So I think it was pretty cool. Patsy begins to influence her father because she's been influenced in France for the reasons of no slavery, that blacks and whites are equal, both have work opportunities, and so when she comes back to America, she realizes that that is not the case. Slavery is still an ongoing issue, and how she really tries to explore her father when it comes to his stance on slavery. Because slavery does not end until a good 50 years later down the line. And so it's pretty well written. I loved it. And you guys should read it. This is also historical fiction, by the way. Next, we have Dreams in a Time of War by, I apologize if I'm going to butcher it, Guji Wa Thiong'o. This is regarding the British colonization of Kenya in 1938. This young boy, it's by the way, it's a memoir. This young boy is a child of 4 mothers and a father. He has several siblings. And in this point, country and time, if a man had more than one wife in certain African countries, it meant that he was wealthy. And that he was able to feed many children, many wives, and their families were more willing to have their daughters married to the men. This young man, Thiong'o, he is exceptionally bright, and his mother realizes it. And so she decides, single-handedly, she is going to give her son the education that he deserves. So again, this is during the time of British occupation, and really what a mother decides to do for her son, which is to lead him outside of Kenya, to hopefully come to the United States or wherever and lead a better life than they possibly could in Kenya. I read this in Modern African History, one of the best books I've read. I'm really grateful to a lot of my professors for introducing me to books that I wouldn't have necessarily read. Next, okay, just as a side note, a few of these are World War II related. I apologize. But hey, I saved them towards the end. They Called Us Enemy by George Takei and Justin Eisinger. Japanese internment in World War II. On February 19th, 1942, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave the order that stripped citizenship from Japanese Americans, because the thought was that they were still loyal to the Emperor of Japan. And because, there was a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment because of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And so, effectively, these Japanese Americans were rehomed in squalid conditions. George Takei interestingly notes that these were some of his fondest memories because his parents bore the brunt of the racism, of the burden, and just the sacrifices that they made in order to ensure that their children would not feel the hardship that the adults had to go through. Beautiful book. One of my favorite lines from this story is, "The wheels of justice turn slowly." Because all these events happened in 1942 to 1944. And, President Barack Obama decided to really give them restitution and apologize. Well, it was actually Bill Clinton and various presidents, but the petition was that these Japanese Americans had to be, recompensated or compensated. One of the things that really grinds my gears about American history is how little we talk about the internment of Japanese Americans. And it is crazy. But I guess the logic is that there's already so much happening in Europe, especially Germany, Poland, and Americans were nowhere as bad as Hitler. But when you think about it, slavery, mass genocide of Latin Americans, and Native Americans, as well as Japanese internment. We sure as heck weren't putting them in gas chambers, but we took away their rights as citizens. We made them feel less than, and at the same time, these Americans, whether they were Native American, African Americans, Japanese, they all fought for a country that, at one point, did not love them back. They answered the call of their country when their country turned their backs on them. It's heartbreaking. But what I love about America is its resilience. In the time of such despair, America still blooms like a dandelion, like a flower in concrete areas. There's no way that it should bloom, but in the moments of such hardship, happiness still can be found. Next, we have The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. This is historical fiction in 1942, Slovakia and Poland. This is about a young man named Leon, who was fortunate enough to know 6 languages, and so the Nazis took advantage of this and gave him certain benefits, meaning that he was protected. But at the same time, because he knew 6 languages, he would be one of the people, the prisoners, to tattoo numbers on their fellow prisoners. And this time, he also found love. In Auschwitz, Auschwitz is a place of hatred. How can love even exist? Again, human existence. We are made to survive. The worst, by finding pleasure. And so, it's a really good book. Next, we have Auschwitz Lullaby by Maria Escobar. This is set in Germany and Poland. This is the story of Helene Hanneman, or Hanneman. And this is not about the Jewish population. This is about the Roman population. Not only were the Jews affected in the Holocaust, but so were the Romans, so were blacks, so were communists, so were many different people. If you weren't blonde hair, blue eyed, German, you weren't a citizen. You weren't considered as part of the Aryan race. So Helene Hanneman, she falls in love with a Romani gypsy and has 4 or 5 children. Because she is a German woman, she's protected, but her family is not. One day, her world is rocked upside down when the Nazis come, bang on their door, and say that the father, the husband, and the children are to leave. Helene Hanneman makes the choice to stay with her family, because she says, where my children are going, that is where I'm going. She, as a nurse, also worked with Joseph Mengele. And, Joseph Mengele did a lot of barbaric experiments. Many of them on twins. And Ms. Hanneman, she saved so many children, she saved so many families, and she's not given the credit that she deserves. And Mario Escobar, he says that her story needs to be told. It's unbelievably shocking, sad, heartbreaking, but beautiful at the same time. Uplifting as well, in some moments. Next, we have... You hear that? I hope they watch it, and watch my utter disdain and disappointment. Next, we have The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. This is fiction, set in World War II. When Death narrates, you sure as heck listen. This story is about a young girl named Liesel. She begins the story by watching her brother die. And her mother gives her up to a nice German family. And the reason why this is being given up is because Liesel can pass as a German citizen, because she is blonde hair, blue-eyed. The family that takes her in understands the risk and basically hide her in plain sight. The reason why this is called The Book Thief is because she has a habit of stealing books, especially banned books. And the family also hide another person who happens to be Jewish. Liesel bonds with him. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. It really gives another perspective of German life during World War II. We always talk about the Nazis, the horrors they inflicted, but we don't talk about the citizens. Just because so many people bought into Hitler's dogma, doesn't mean that everyone did. And just like in The Sound of Music, people found ways to resist. Beautiful book. I highly recommend that you guys read it. Next is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, set in World War II. This is fiction. It's about a young girl. She is blind, but her father does not cut her any slack. Her father is an architect and works in a museum, and this young girl loses her eyesight because of an illness at the age of 6, and her father says, no, you're not going to be treated as if you're disabled. You're going to be treated as if you are a normal-looking girl. And so the ways that he would do this is by making sure that she knows where she is. Oh, by the way, this is set in France. German occupation in France. And we'll get to that in a second. And, you know, she has so many people helping her, and it's beautiful, it's brilliant. We also have a perspective of another German boy, who, he and his sister are orphans. And because they are orphans, they don't have the same kind of say-so in their lives. And so, because this young boy is so brilliant, so smart, he is enlisted in Hitler's Youth Academy. And it serves as a reminder that just because you are a part of something doesn't mean that you are for it. You know what I mean? It serves as a reminder even today, in today's divided America, where it's between the Democrats and Republicans, and just because you believe in one thing doesn't mean that you're anti another thing, or because you believe in one thing, you are for this entire thing, you know? Yep. Next, the final book we have is, The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This was a wonderfully written book. This is set in post-Vietnam War. Lenore Albright and her family are going to Alaska because it is the last frontier. And because her father can't manage to keep a job because he has PTSD, which, by the way, is not given a name at this point. And, you know, he's a little messed up from the war. He has cultish tendencies, and he drives his family to Alaska because he wants to escape the creditors. He also wants to really live off the land. He doesn't want to be a part of a capitalist society. Just so you know, this book deals heavily with spousal abuse, domestic violence, and PTSD. If these are things that you struggle with, please get help. Know that you are valued, and if this is something that's going to trigger you, I recommend you not reading this. Alright, so that is it for now. I'm sorry I couldn't end on a better note, but yeah, cool. I hope you all had a wonderful day. Bye. See ya. Comment, like, subscribe, and all the fun stuff. Bye.